Pocahontas look. Want to have fun? We can have fun. We can play. Perfect. Thank you. Are we ready to go? Hello to you, and thank you for joining us. You're watching Visionaries. You know that song, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number? Well, it's true. And that is because you are never too young to change the world. At the age of 29, my guest today became the youngest neurosurgeon on the African continent. Can you believe that? Help me welcome Dr. Ncumisa Jilata. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for the invitation as well. I'm quite honored to be here.
Quite an incredible feat. The honor and the pleasure is all ours.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the makings of a neurosurgeon. Back in Mthatha is where it all began.
Yes, I grew up in Mthatha, in a small suburb called Southridge Park. Grew up with my mom and dad. I've got two sisters. Well, you know, in an African family, your father's siblings, children are also your family, and they are your siblings. So by virtue of that, I've got more family and more siblings than just my immediate two sisters. So we grew up in a very Christian family. My parents are apostles in our church. And so I've basically grown up in view of people who are leaders, and have always kind of known in life that I would one day want to be a leader and be in a teaching position and be in a position that's considered to be influential in life.
So no manga business, because it must have been very strict. Was that the environment?
Yes. Well, you know, Southridge Park is actually very child-friendly. So to be honest with you, we did go for the odd, you know, the walks up and down, you know, getting to know the neighbors' children. But having the parents that I had, 5 o'clock you have to be indoors, because if you are not closing the curtains, you know, pulling the curtains, switching on the lights, then who is? So by virtue of that, one then learns discipline from a very young age. To this age, I have to be in my house. 5 o'clock, I'm usually wondering, why am I still up and about? I need to be home. I need to be home.
Yeah, yeah,
that's pretty
But
much
did that also instill in you, I suppose, a good work ethic when it came to your school books? Were you a diligent scholar?
I would say yes, and of course from the positive reinforcement from parents as well. From a young age, even preschool, having a mother who always praises you for whatever little thing that you do, you know. To this day, she keeps every certificate you've ever received, up to the one that I've received maybe 2 weeks ago. She keeps all of them. So regarding that, she sort of instilled a work ethic where, you know, you do well, you'll be praised for it. You do well, you'll be praised. And at the same time, there are things that are duty, and it's your job to do it. And if you don't do it, nobody else will do it.
There's a picture of Mommy Dearest.
Oh, that's last year.
Tell me about that. Tell me
graduation.
about what was happening there.
We were preparing for graduation. This is almost a year and a half ago. And as you can see, she's a beautiful woman. My dad always speaks about, I've got a beautiful wife.
I love it.
So we were just getting dressed, you know, makeup on, that sort of thing. The picture, I think, was taken in Durban.
Oh, let's talk about, you know, how you built up toward that graduation. My understanding is that you were not taking biology up until grade 11 or matric. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are
How
correct.
in the world did you end up in this field?
Well, you're correct in saying there's one subject I wasn't doing, which was required for medical school, and this was physical science. At that time, it was partly from, you know, when you're young, you kind of want to touch here, touch there, you want to do everything. So around grade 9, I then decided I'd actually like to pursue a career in accounting and become a CA, you know. Of course, it was quite glamorous at that point. You look at a CA, you see how they dressed, and, you know, corporate South Africa. And I thought, okay, that's what I want to do. Until there's a teacher that we had, Mr. Nodia, in grade 11, who was teaching us biology, because I took biology. And the way he just introduced the concept of the human body to us, the concept of how things work, you know, the circuitry of neuroscience, how you can take a glass of water, you know, you sip it, and how that impulse is taken from you touching it to the brain to you perceiving what's happening. That's when I thought, you know what, I don't think there's anything that tops this.
Wow.
So that's when I decided to switch. And I said, I told my parents, I'm like, I think I've decided to stop accounting, and I'd now like to pursue something in medicine, Of course, there'll be obstacles here and there, having a headmaster who'll say, no, these are the rules, this is what we do, you're not allowed to, to take extra subjects. So, but having, the parents that I have, my dad, all he said to me was, my child, just continue studying, we'll sort out the rest. The law in South Africa is that there's a minimum number of subjects that you can take, but in terms of the maximum, you're way below that. So you can still take as many as you want. So through that, then I went on. Of course, it's not easy having extra subjects.
All those years that were missed.
You had to. There was no option.
Yeah.
So extra classes, extra. Of course, the friends you pick as well, they have an impact. Because then I decided, okay, I'm going to make sure that I read with the friends that I've got who are already doing physical science. And of course, having people around you who sort of believe in your dream and want to see it come to light, they'll always assist you. So not to forget people that are around you.
Tell me about what this well-rounded child then did when you went to varsity. How did you find that experience in tertiary?
Tertiary was a bit of a shock to the system initially, because when you grow up and you are in primary school, high school, and you've sort of always grown up being an above average student.
Yes.
I've never said this to anyone, but I remember I can't remember if it was a test or an exam. It must have been a test though, biochemistry in varsity. The first time in my life I got something below 50. I got a 45%. I think that kind of woke me up from day one, and I was thinking, okay, we're not here to play.
We're playing with the big boys now.
I had to pull up my socks, definitely, and I must say from that day, onwards, I never failed again. But I would say definitely varsity for me was an eye-opener. Also, growing up in, I went to Walter Sisulu University in Umtata. Of course, you get to see people from all walks of life, different types of backgrounds as well. And of course, I found it's where I got to learn to interact with the rest of society, because now you're exposed to people from everywhere. You're exposed to people from all walks of life, like I said, different backgrounds. And I found it was a sort of an introduction to society and how then the adult world would be
working environment.
Exactly.
I'm glad you persisted, because look, it paid off. I'm seeing the picture there of you graduated. At which stage was this? Was this undergrad or was this your PhD?
No. This is the Master of Medicine. It's a degree that's usually offered in, I think, all the medical school universities in South Africa. When you are specializing, you have a concurrent degree that you're doing. It's called a Master of Medicine. So by you specializing, you have to be registered with the university.
Okay.
So the registration in the universities is usually through that Master of Medicine. So then afterwards, you then have to do research once you've qualified through the college. And once you've completed your research and everything, then you graduate the Masters of Medicine.
Look, I am so glad you persisted. I'm glad you changed from accounting, because you went on to be a trailblazer, not just in South Africa, but the entire continent, and not only for Black people, but for women as well. So I want to talk about all that and more when we come back. Make sure you stay right where you are. Believe me, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited. Please allow me to boast a little bit, okay? My guest today is one of 5 Black female neurosurgeons in South Africa and one of 150 across the continent. If you're not impressed by that stat, nothing is going to impress you. I mean, I think this is something so remarkable, and I can just wish to be a fly on the wall and see what you do when you're in that theater. Tell me a little bit about what it was like the very, very first time. I'm sure it must have been so surreal.
The first time I operated was, of course, when you're training, right? And we were doing, it's a cerebellar tumor. I was the assistant, of course. So when they opened up and you see this little part of the brain, the cerebellum is sitting at the back. So, you know, it's in charge of things like your balance and some of the coordination. So when I saw it for the first time and the person operating said to me, so come have a look, this is now the cerebellum, and you start seeing it moving.
Oh my goodness.
I felt like, you know, this is one of the biggest privileges in life that one can be, you know, awarded. You realize that what you do is actually bigger than just yourself. There's the element of actual neurosurgery where you are dealing with people who, it doesn't matter what amount you have in the bank in terms of cash, whether you are the poorest member of society or you're the richest member of society. When it comes to any type of pathology in your brain or spine, the emotion is the same. You understand? So you get to interact with people on their most vulnerable moments. And you need to then realize that what you're doing impacts people's lives from the day you meet them until the day that you are done with them. And not only the people that you are treating, because to us, it's just a job. You know, you go, you operate, you go home. But to the family that you're dealing with, because neuro is not just the patient, it's the patient, it's their family.
But you know, you just mentioned that your job is a job to you, but for many others, it literally is a matter of life and death. Of
course, yes.
Have you ever encountered, you know, rejection or perceptions where people look at you and they just see your color and your sex and your age and they think incompetence?
I have, definitely, and I still experience it today, believe it or not. You know, you have people who, and part of you has to come to terms with the fact that, like I said, it's a big day for the family and the patient. It's a big week or a big month. So there are times when you would like to operate on somebody and you get the family coming, you chat to them about what's going to be happening. And then they go and they ask you, so when is the doctor coming to talk to us about the operation? We're told that the doctor's still in theater. And you're thinking to yourself, I am the doctor who was in theater.
At the doctor.
You're looking. And usually the next question is, oh, how many of these have you done? And it can be something simple, not even the hard operations that we have. But I must say, training in this discipline humbles you. And it makes you realize not everything is to be taken personally. There will be a time in life where it is normal to see someone like me who's doing what I do. Slowly the narrative is changing, you know, but you still get people like that where the first question they want to ask you is, wait a minute, will you be doing the operation? How many of these have you done? I mean, someone else might take that as an attack on your skill of the craft. So definitely those moments still occur.
Is it everything that you hoped and dreamed that it would be?
Neuro? It's a job.
Yes, you keep saying that, but the rest of us are like, oh,
it is a job.
She's amazing.
To be honest with you, it is. It has its own challenges, like every job. There are moments when you are ecstatic. You've just operated on somebody who was, you know, who had lost consciousness. They start waking up, and everybody's happy. The problem with neuro is when you get lows, those lows are very low, because unlike most disciplines, you can take somebody who was walking and talking like you and I mean this happens in the best of hands. Anywhere in the world it can happen. And the person can come out of theater no longer able to talk, no longer able to walk, no longer able. So, and unfortunately we're the type of people who, if you come to me and you tell me, okay, I've been diagnosed with a brain tumor, I not only get to know you, I then start knowing your family, your children, your mom, your dad, because we have to interact almost on a daily basis. So now when something goes wrong, unfortunately, that moment becomes bigger than all the other positive moments that you've had. And I think it's one thing we can all relate, you know, we can all relate with as neurosurgeons. But there are those moments where you feel like, oh, this is amazing. I don't think anything else can top this. It is the tip of the Eiffel Tower in medicine. So, yeah.
Sure. Have you ever had the death of a patient in your hands?
Yes, I have. I have. You know, you're reminding me, there's a patient we once operated on. I was a senior registrar at the time. A senior registrar is when you are in training and now you have, I think, completed the first 3 years of your training, and then you're sort of a senior registrar. So we took this lady, took her to theatre, we operated on her. And as we're about to close, you know, now everyone is calm, the operation has gone well, everything is proper. Of course, I was with another consultant who's already somebody now that is specialized. Bleeding starts. And you know, when you take consent from a family, you always tell them the worst case scenario, but then you don't expect the worst case scenario to happen. You understand? So we operated, you know, the bleeding started. It took about, I don't know how many hours we spent that day in theatre. It started in the morning around 9. When we walked out, it was around 10 or 11 at night. So, of course, lo and behold, she eventually passes away. So that feeling that you get afterwards, and I mean, this is somebody who's now family you've gotten to know. You get to know her as well while you are preparing for the operation itself. So that low, I won't lie, it took another 3 months before I was comfortable enough to go back to theatre. It's almost as if you have to go through a mourning process yourself, where you're thinking, I'm just going to mourn and come to terms with what has happened before I go back. Because ultimately we are also emotional beings, you know. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
And then, like you say, when you do summon enough courage to do it again, you then experience the highs. I mean, I know that you were in theatre just before you came to the show.
Yes, this morning I was in
and you were
theatre.
able to do that. And so your work is still very much needed. So thank you very much for that, and for actually letting us know exactly what happens behind the scene. So I guess the next question is, where to from here? And we'll hear from Dr. Jilata when we come back. Stay right where you are. Hello again. Well, we have no doubt that Dr. Jilata will continue making us proud and bringing smiles to our faces, because that's what Ncumisa means, right?
It's to make people smile.
To make people smile, yes. And you've done just that.
I'm happy.
So that's what the future has in store, more of that. But also, I mean, what do you still hope to achieve after you've reached the level that you've reached? What's next?
Oh, there's a lot to still achieve.
Yeah.
Remember, in the world of neurosurgery, I'm still a baby.
Sure.
So for now, one has to then focus on perfecting the craft, you know, being good and extremely good at what you do. Yeah. There's still, you know, publications that one needs to do, and super specializing as well. And like I said, in neuro, I am the youngest. So that comes with the responsibility as well of having to find people within the discipline who you consider to be extremely good, and, you know, sort of following in their footsteps and making sure that you learn whatever else you still hadn't learned from the qualifying days. So.
And the UN, still in your future? Is there still something that you want to do?
Definitely. I've always felt the UN is one of those organizations where you can impact change in the world on a broader spectrum. So the UN is one of those organizations where I've always felt I want to be part of it. But I realized you can't just decide I'm going to be working with the United Nations or the WHO without necessarily having a plan of what you're going to be doing there. So now I can actually streamline definitely what I'd like to do there, whether it is improving you know, the awareness around brain trauma or things like stroke. But stroke tends to be one of my favorite. I have a keen interest in vascular. So this is one of the things that I'd like to pursue.
When you are not operating on people's brains or talking about that, what do you do? What do you do for fun? What else are you interested in?
I read a bit, watch movies.
What's your favorite movie?
Okay, I would say The Shawshank Redemption. It's an old movie, and but I won't lie, I think I probably watch it at least once a year. It's a movie we did film study on when I was in high school, and it has, I can't remember the character's name, but it's about somebody who's trying to escape prison. For me, it epitomized so well human psychology and how one can manipulate their way out of any situation. It doesn't matter how tight the boundaries that are put around you. This is somebody who was accused of having murdered his wife, and he ends up in one of the tightest prisons in the States. And just the process of him going through the planning, I love the movie. I love it.
I also read somewhere that you're actually interested in fashion design.
Yes.
What? I'm like, this is so cool. The two extremes, right?
I know.
Brain surgery, and then there's the
know.
creative, there's the fashion, there's the colorful. Tell me about that.
You know what? At my core, I'm a girl.
Yeah.
I'm a woman. And, you know, we like to look good. We like to look pretty. And, of course, the art of making clothes as well is one of those things I've always had an interest in. It's not a dream I've pursued yet, but I'm still going to do that in the near future. So definitely I've always loved clothes. I've always loved fashion, dressing up. You know, my favorite part of, this is going to sound very vain, of a congress while I'm presenting, it's what I'm going to wear, how I'm going to be seen by the world. And so definitely it's one of the things I hold dear to my heart.
Well, beauty and brains, right?
Yes.
They go side by side, that's what everybody says.
Yeah.
And tell me, what is the, what's the silliest thing that you've ever done where you look back and you're like, that was so silly, but that was so much fun?
Oh, that caught me off guard.
Road trips with friends, or maybe you the one who went and approached a guy and said hi. No. But now that we're on the subject of guys, like how does a guy hit on a neurosurgeon?
Well, you know, I've always said to myself, the guy who wants to be with you will know that he deserves you. So a guy who feels that he cannot approach me is the type of guy that I also don't want. Do you understand? You need to be confident in yourself. So I will say my partner is one of those people. He is extremely confident. He is a loving person, and he's kind. You know, first and foremost, he's a kind person.
I love that. I love that. I was trying to sneak in that question.
I could figure.
Thank you. Thanks for indulging me, because I was like, how do I ask if she's seeing someone? I love it. I love it. Okay, so you're really good at a lot of things, because you saw that hidden agenda of mine as well.
No, I saw that coming.
What are you not good at? Like, what are one of those things and you're like, I suck at this?
You know what? I suck at domestic duties. I hate cooking. If I'm cooking, you must know I really did not have another option, but I had to. So I go and I buy recipe books, and then I'll follow it right through and through. And then it still doesn't look the way it looks in the book. And then the taste, I'm always not sure, but was it meant to taste like this? Number two, I think I'm quite bad at multitasking. I can't do too many things at once. I usually have to focus on one thing at a time, get that sorted, and move on. And one thing that I think now I'm sort of trying to get to or get to be good at is balance, you know, just balancing life. I struggle with that a lot. You know, you're expected to be this great neurosurgeon. You must be a woman, look pretty. You must teach people. You must still go to the gym and be slaying. You must, you know, all of those things. I struggle with the balance. At the same time, you want to catch up on some reading. So then
and
there's family and, you know, so I struggle a bit with balance. So if I can find someone who can teach me balance, I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, and then once you learn, teach the rest of us.
I'll teach you, don't worry.
Thank you so much. Look, you've taught us so many things just in this short amount of time that we've been with you. Tenacity, perseverance, and excellence. It's just one of the three that I can highlight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having joined us. Look, we do it again. Next week's Visionary, you'll have to find out who that is next week. Until then, goodbye. God bless you.
And where you are headed in life. It's much better and easier to maintain productivity xa uzazi wena uba ungubani. Akho mntu uzama ukumfeyikha, awuzama uba ngomnye umntu ongamaziyo, you're just being yourself. And ekunyamezeleni kohlale kukhona umvuzo. Ndiyabulela.